We met in Holland through Paul Sips, and it was a call that Paul had put to me to see if I was interested in coming in and trying these new amazing jazz bass style basses that Tom was making, and it sounded like a good little night out in Holland, so I thought that sounds interesting, and yeah, we met there.
When we first met, we kind of, well, immediately I felt like some kind of connection there, and I was intrigued with what Paul was after, and also of his 66 Jazz, which is a fantastic bass. And it's not about copying it, it's kind of understanding what it's about and figuring that out, what's actually happening, because a lot of the time when it comes to vintage instrument or to a certain one instrument that has something magical about them, people just say, yeah, well, it's that voodoo kind of thing, because you don't really understand what's going on. Something makes you tick, but why and what, and it's kind of zooming in on that and try understanding what's going on, why is it doing this, and what do I have to do to kind of recreate it or create something that over time will lean in that direction.
Tom brought over two bodies for this bass, and they're both older bodies, and we kind of tested a few different things out, and then tested some different pickups out, and then swapped the bodies, and at every point there was things that were noticeably different from even the previous trip when you changed some bridge saddles to then putting this body on, which the other, I was actually happy with the way that the other instrument sounded, and then this, he's done something to this under here, which I don't know if he's going to kill me for if I say, but there's things that he's done that I didn't even know, but I actually said, no, I prefer this. There's something about this. It was the way I described it. That must make his job quite difficult if people are kind of going, because I know when I've said, this sounds a bit hard, like the bass sounds a bit too, like not unforgiving, but just like it's not cushioned, and then, oh, this sounds bright, and I know that's, you know, that adjective somebody else might say that as a positive thing, or I might probably say that, yeah, this sounds a bit harder, and mean it as a positive thing, so it's quite vague, but I think he's got a knack of being able to kind of think of ways to, by the way, I've seen the way he taps everything and kind of knocks things and kind of listens for the resonant frequencies of some of my instruments. There's things that have been done that I can notice that it feels more responsive, and that's almost one of those things where it's almost like only in the hands of the player is perhaps that going to be noticeable, but then hopefully that means that what they play is great because they're feeling inspired, or you're getting the right kind of feeling back from the instrument. It's doing what you want. I like a right hand spacing to kind of feel close to 4-string, so at least 19 mil. This is more like 20, I think. Is it?
This is 20 mil spacing, which is fairly unusual on a 5-string. But
I just think that feels less like a transition from one instrument to another. It's almost like it feels easy. I know it makes it a little bit wider, but for me, and also it's not more forgiving, but it just feels more familiar for slap playing or kind of things where you if you wanted to go like up and under kind of thumping, then there's a bit more space for that kind of thing. I'm sure there's plenty of people who can adapt their technique, but that's just how I feel comfortable.
It's easy to just put more bells and whistles and just more flamboyantly looking things. Just add. That challenge in kind of finding that essence of Paul's 66 and kind of figure out what
What it is that
what makes that
I think
bass special, and why does Paul just connect with it, and so that we can take that and repackage it. Well,
I think it's about a
basically,
responsive thing with instruments that people keep going back to and playing as their favourite bass. There's something that you get back from it. And some basses kind of don't have that, and they may have a lot of features, but they don't feel like they're kind of giving anything back or responding to what your dynamic and the little things that you're trying to do with it. And that's the thing that you get from your favourite instrument, or until you find something that maybe does that even more. And I can kind of get that Tom gets that there's, because you can feel it in the instruments. It's a little bit like playing through a real vintage Neutron envelope filter and then a sound modelling thing. And to the person listening, they may struggle to kind of hear a little bit. They might get to the point where they're going, well, that kind of sounds really close. Wow, that is amazingly close. But when you're actually playing it, you can probably tell that it's not. I might go to a gig tonight and see somebody playing an active bass with all of the things that I wouldn't like, and if they sound great, they sound great. And sometimes I do think maybe I should be doing that, but you play how you kind of still favour, you still search for that sound that's kind of in you, and it hasn't always been the same. I've had other instruments over the years, and in fact, I posted a thing this morning because I met somebody. We were out having a drink last night, and somebody mentioned a singer called Ruby Turner, who I used to play with in the late '80s, and it prompted me to look up a YouTube link this morning, and I was playing a white Warwick Thumb 5. That would have had EMGs in it, and it's 25 years ago, and and that's not to say that somebody else couldn't pick up that tonight and play that and sound great, and I'd be thinking, wow, that sounds great, but it's just not where I've ended up being and what I really like. So I do still kind of want to try things out. I'll want to try out amps that maybe have a different output, or pedals, or strings, or guitars, pickups, but I kind of still know what I like most of the time. I want something that's kind of got body, that sounds like it's going to have the weight behind the track naturally, and kind of just fill the pocket that's supposed to be filled. That's another reason why I don't really like going for the active EQ thing. I don't want loads of really heavy subs. I mean, the amount of times you stand on a big stage when the side fills are on, and the PA is a big PA. Just kind of going, if that was an active bass control, and I know some guys who may, they'll automatically ramp up bass and treble up to like 60% on a thing, and that just, you'd be virtually shaking the light rig down, and immediately everybody would be going, there's way too much sub on that, because in a quiet environment it might sound cool, but it doesn't really work on a big stage, and it doesn't really work that well on track either. The engineer will be putting it through a high pass filter just to kind of get rid of some of, shelving most of that off. Quite often they shelve things off from 50 hertz down rather than boosting 30 to 40 hertz with this big swell. But it depends. If for that slap thing you need some extra weight. But they're all just things that I've kind of discovered that are my preferences, and I can kind of see that they're his preferences too. So it's not like us kind of blazing through the world with a kind of a sword saying, your way's wrong and this way's right, but we are about to start doing that.